from New York, a blizzard has buried much of the Northeast, much of the nation's capital, and much of Congress's sanity. What the record snowfall has exposed, however, is just how ignorant leading deniers are about what even the Bush Pentagon recognized as a threat: climate change. They think it's disproved by snow. And Democrats are responding to a snowstorm that, in fact, may exemplify climate change by naturally backing down on legislation to combat climate change. Legislation Republicans oppose because even though it would have cut taxes for the middle class, too, it also would have cut the profits of big polluters. While the snowfall shut down much of the Capitol's day-to-day business, including progress on the jobs bill, key Democrats now say it might also spell the end, for now, of the climate change bill. Why? Because people are idiots. Senate Energy Chairman Jeff Bingaman remarking about this storm, quote, "It makes it more challenging for folks not taking time to review the scientific arguments. People see the world around them and they extrapolate. And no one is extrapolating stupider than the people in the pockets of the energy industry. Quote, it's going to keep snowing in D.C. until Al Gore cries uncle." Get it? Al Gore. Quote, where's Al Gore now? See? Al Gore. And, of course, we have Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh, the Wall Street water carriers, the corporate clowns who get rich by tricking listeners into voting against their own interests, laughing about how silly it is to believe in extreme weather change in the middle of extreme weather.
The snow is hammering Washington, D.C. again. I believe God is just saying, I got your global warming here, eh? You want a piece of global warming?
It's just another nail in the coffin of the whole global warming thing. And every day like this, where is Al Gore? Where is the media asking Al Gore what's going on with this?
It's snowing, moron! No one is asking about Al Gore, of course, because the former vice president did not personally invent climate change. Scientists have predicted for decades that climate change will bring with it extreme weather. And yes, last month was the hottest January on record since satellites were first used to track global temperatures. What happens when the Earth warms up? More water evaporates from the oceans, like steam, meaning for those places where it's still below freezing, there will be more snow. The National Weather Service today confirmed this. Surprise, the snowiest winter on record for Washington so far. Let's bring in, fresh from the Iditarod dog sled race, relocated this year from Nome to D.C., MSNBC political analyst Howard Feynman, also senior Washington correspondent, political columnist of Newsweek, and the author of the 13 American Arguments. Much thanks for your time and your travel efforts tonight, Howard.
No problem. No problem, Keith.
Virginia Republicans posted and then quickly pulled today this web ad mocking the Democrats for supporting climate change legislation. Is there no sense that Virginia, the state they are from and represent, happens to be suffering right now acutely due to this storm precisely because of the kind of climate change they are defending?
No, I don't think there is any sense of that. I think that, number one, Republicans have had their eyes on this cap and trade bill, the climate change bill, from the very beginning. They've been out to kill it from the very beginning. That's number one. Number two, a lot of the attacks on climate change data and theory have had an effect, especially on Republicans. So there was a poll recently, Keith, that said now that about only half of people who call themselves Republicans believe that the climate change thing is for real. And that has resulted in a change in the overall numbers. But these are the Republicans speaking to their own base.
But in 2000, during the Bush administration, the National Intelligence Council concluded that more than 30 U.S. military installations face heightened risk because of rising sea levels, which is a direct consequence of climate change. Why don't McConnell and DeMint care about the troops?
Well, as it happens, I was talking to Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader, earlier today, and I covered Mitch forever, going back to when he was county judge in Kentucky. And Mitch sees the world through the eyes of the Kentucky coal operators. This is a coal opportunity, in his view, and that's how he sees things. He sees the energy problems as having coal as one of the main answers, if not the main answer. And as far as changing river levels and coastlines and so on, that's what the Corps of Engineers and the Navy are for. Come on.
Well, all right, there's not much of a danger in the sea rising to cover Kentucky. Is that the idea? So he doesn't care?
You know, they already have rearranged all the rivers and lakes there anyway. That's what I say. The Corps of Engineers, you bring them in and they rearrange them some more. No problem.
Just cut off the tops of the mountains.
Sure, sure.
This is what this boils down to, though. Life on Earth is going to be threatened because the people who recognized and warned about climate change did not just go with that phrase, climate change, and instead chose global warming, opening this opportunity up for Rush Limbaugh and Sarah Palin to kill us all?
Well, I do think that labels matter, and in retrospect, simply focusing on warming was a mistake. Just in terms of the politics and the salesmanship of what is undoubtedly a really, really big problem. But it's also now gotten all wrapped up in Obama and Gore and the whole big government idea. You know, conservatives and Republicans, they worry about big government unless it's the national security state, then they want a lot of big government. But in this case, they'd rather let the coal operators and the nuclear plant operators and so on, you know, have their way.
3 of my 4 questions to you tonight have been about Republican idiocy on this subject. Now let me turn to Democratic idiocy on this subject. How is the majority party's takeaway from a display of extreme weather turning out to be surrender on a bill that fights man-made or man-influenced extreme weather?
Well, I'm sure from the White House's point of view, I think what Jeff Bingaman said, which is basically giving up in a sense, is not what they wanted to hear. On the other hand, I'm not sure how committed the White House is to the cap-and-trade bill that they put forward and jammed through the House at the beginning of the session. You know, at the beginning of last year, they were all proud of themselves for that, but the thing has completely languished. And this is a case where presidential leadership and explanation is required. You know, we keep saying that Barack Obama gives such a good speech and he's a good explainer. I don't really know how good an explainer he is. He didn't end up explaining the health care reform bill all that well. It was very complex. Same here. It's a big, complex bill, but you can't assume everybody understands the science behind it. And that's what the president has to do. He's got to get out there and explain it if he expects to have political activity on this.
Maybe he could just get up and say, you know what, if it weren't snowing already and we'd eliminated snow, it would be too late to do anything, and it doesn't make the difference how much of a deficit we have. So let's spend $800 trillion a day because we're all going to die in 9 years anyway.
There's you could try that.
I've written his speech for him. MSNBC political analyst Howard Feinman, also of Newsweek, also author of the 13 American Arguments.
Now, you really didn't have to say all that, but thank you.
Now out in paperback and available without a prescription. Thank you, Howard.
Oh, you're welcome, Keith.